Good afternoon, everyone. That was kind of loud. Thank you all for coming. I am Robert Hodges. Amongst other things, I am the Director of Academics here at the Rock School. It's my 8th year doing this. And this is a very special occasion, because not just are we celebrating these students graduating, this is also the end of the 20th year of Rock Academics. So So we've been doing this and having great success for 20 years, but I want to call out one person who came up with this entire idea. It was the brainchild of Miss Stephanie Spazoff, who is right there. Through her tireless efforts, we've got this wonderful program. So thank you, Stephanie. So we're here to celebrate these graduates, and they are some amazing graduates. We're going to start off with some dancing, because we're a dance school and it would be weird not to have dancing. Except in 2020, we didn't have it then, but we do now. And we're going to start off with Miss Lily Munson. She's going to start us off, and she'll be coming in.
Just because I wander around the places we would go, hoping that I'd run into you one last time. Just because I never took your picture of my phone doesn't mean that you're still on my mind. Just because I accidentally slip and say your name when I hear a song, it makes me insecure. Just because I know I'll never ever feel the same doesn't mean I love you anymore. Am I lying to myself again when I say you're not the best I've ever had? Am I lying to myself again when I say that I'm not missing you? Just because I'm on my knees and swearing I will change and do anything to hear you say I'm yours doesn't mean I love you anymore. Doesn't mean I love you anymore.
Déjà, je m'éloigne de l'enseigne verte qui éclairait nos nuits et rythmait nos heures. Je n'y peux rien, en quelque sorte. Faut voir tout ce qu'on nous foutait dessus comme modèle et ligne à suivre. J'ai pris une chambre un peu plus haut où je ne fais rien. Je regarde lentement tout se défaire. Je sens bien que n'arrivera jamais la relève et la remise en route.
So let's hear again those answers. They all did a lovely job out there today. So we're going to take a brief intermission while we finish setting up here and while they get changed. So probably 10 minutes or so. So don't go far, but get up, stretch your legs, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the 2020 Rock Academics graduation. It is so lovely to be back here at this time after 2 years of all the craziness, when we can sit here and not having to wear masks if we don't want to, not having to social distance. Those of you that are wearing masks, great. So again, I'm Robert Hodges, Director of Academics, and we're so excited that you're all here to celebrate with us. This is a wonderful day. Unfortunately, one of our seniors is not able to be here, Miss Charlotte Tanner Marash, because unfortunately, she actually tested positive for COVID earlier in the week. But hopefully she's watching right now. So, seniors, this is it. You've waited 13 years to get here, and you're about an hour away. So get comfortable. So these 9 seniors, they are amazing. And I know I say that every single year. Every single year I stand up here and say, well, these seniors are amazing. This class is amazing. And this class is amazing, and maybe even a little bit more amazing than normal. I am honored to work with all of these students. I don't even know what else to say beyond these are some of the best kids that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And it's been my honor and my privilege, and I'm proud of all of you. So you've spent a lot of time up here dancing. From Lily, who's been here since about 5 minutes after you could walk, to Audrey, who joined us in January. You've all spent a lot of time up here, but they also spent a lot of time, maybe not quite as much, about 3 floors below us in the academics classroom. While they've been honing their craft here, they've been working on their academics downstairs. And every one of them is a great student. But now they're moving into the future. They're moving on to something else. Now some of them are staying, some of them are going to college, some of them are going off to companies. So, Lily and Lilith, Ava and Audrey, Emmy and Olivia, Charlotte and Charlotte, and Nick. Today's about you, and we're here to give you a proper send-off. So, this is the part of the speech where in the past I give little nuggets of wisdom, just give you some advice to help send you off into the future. And then I would pepper it with a lot of references to some of my favorite movies. Stuff from Batman Begins made it in a lot. I'll just say that. But I thought I'd do something different. It felt like time to do something different today. So I'm going to tell you about my grandmother, my Nana. So my grandmother was born in 1916, Eleanor Kaufman. She was born and raised in Haddon Heights, New Jersey, which is about 3.5 miles down the road from where you danced at the Scottish Rite Auditorium last Friday. Literally 3.5 miles, I Googled it. So she grew up there. She went to high school, Haddon Heights High School. And while she was in high school, she was dating this guy, Jim Gillen. Well, Jim was a few years older, and he graduated early. He went off to prep school, and she said, I'm not waiting for you. And then she started dating this new guy, Russell E. Kramer, which is my grandfather. So she graduated and went off to college. At the height of the Depression, she went to Drexel and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Home Economics and a teaching degree. She taught for a year, and then in 1938, she and my grandfather got married. A few years later, in 1941, they moved to Illinois, right outside Chicago, and then in 45, they moved back here and they settled in Haddonfield. So for the next 40 years, from 1945 until about 1986, they lived in Haddonfield. And my grandmother was very involved in the community, and she was very involved with her church. And then in 86, they moved about 12, 13 miles up the road to Moorestown. And there she got very involved with her church there. In 1990, my grandfather passed away. 2 years later, she got a phone call from Jim Gillen, who she had dated in high school. His wife had passed away a few years earlier. They started dating, and in '95, they got married. And as a little tidbit of trivia, Jenna, my wife, has on her left hand the engagement ring and wedding band from that marriage. Then, so they got married in '95, and then in 2004, my grandmother passed away. So that is the history of my grandmother. But it's nice, but it's just historical facts. It's just data. That doesn't tell you who my grandmother is. You know, these are just things she did. It doesn't tell you it doesn't give you any insight into her character, who she was. But that's what I want to tell you about, her character. So I'm going to be blunt. My grandmother was the most loving, kind person I have ever met in my entire life. No one was close. From a young age, whenever you were around her, you just felt this aura of love and kindness just emanating from her. My cousins and I, we all loved being around her because she would never get mad at us. She would, but it would be out of disappointment and not anger. So whenever she'd speak of anyone, literally anyone, she would never say anything bad about them. She might not like what they do, and she would tell you, I do not like what that person did, but she wouldn't say anything bad about them. It's kind of that love the sinner, hate the sin. And you might say that, well, this is a function of her faith. But in my years, I've known a lot of people of various faiths, and none of that translated into the love that I felt from her. Now, after she passed away at her memorial service, person after person would come up to me and express their condolences and tell me that they miss her so much because she was the most loving person they'd ever met. That this is what they all felt, that they spoke about her in a voice of reverence, not because of what she'd done, but because of how loving and kind she was. I recently had an occasion to attend the church that she had attended in Haddonfield from the 40s to the 80s. And there were a few members there that had been around as long as she'd been there, so they remember her. And we talked for a bit, and she came up. And what they spoke about her was exactly what I've been saying, that she was the most loving person they'd ever met. You know, that 35 years later, 35 years after she left that church, almost 2 decades after she died, this is what they remember, is that she was this kind, compassionate, loving person. So I'm reminded of that quote that's often misattributed to Maya Angelou. They may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. What made my grandmother special, what made her memorable, was not any of the historical bits that I started off with. I remember her vividly, but I had to call my mom and say, what year was she born? What year did she do this? What year did she do that? Because I don't know that. But that didn't matter because that wasn't her. That's just stuff she did. What made her special was this palpable love that she emanated, that she exuded. That's her legacy, not things she did, not the historical data. It's how she made people feel. That's her legacy. It's a legacy that, in my meager way, I try to live up to. I don't think I will ever achieve what she did. So what this gets down to is, remember, you're going to go out into the world, and you're going to interact with a lot of people. How you treat them, how you make them feel, is your legacy. And be careful that that legacy turns out how you want it to turn out. That's all. And I will say, I told my mother I was going to be talking about her mom, and she was very excited. So I think she's watching on YouTube right now. So if she is, hi, Mom. So every year we hand out some Rock Academics Awards to some of the very special students. But today we have a very special award that has not been given out since I've been here. This is the Bo and Stephanie Spazoff Award for Excellence. It's rare. It's never been given out since I've been here, but it goes to a member of the staff or faculty that is exceptionally deserving. They've gone beyond what any other staff member has done. They've demonstrated leadership, dedication, compassion, and professionalism. This year we have an employee who embodies this. So I'm going to hand the microphone off to Miss Stephanie Spazoff, who's going to tell you about this wonderful employee. You can come up, Stephanie. Since it does have her name on it, it should be coming from her.
It's apt that he spent so much time on love, because this person exudes it. And not only love that's tender and compassionate and helpful, but love that's strong and disciplined and standing for what's as close to right as they know. And this award goes to the mother for the Rock School, Yenny.
I also want to say that the members of the students in the dorms, they wanted this to be extra special, and they passed the hat around, and we were able to give her a little bit of something special to go along with the award. So there you go, Yenny. You're very deserving. We will miss you. Yeah. Yenny is leaving us next week, and she's going back to the Dominican Republic. She feels that her 9 years here was enough. We will miss her very much. Now, on to the student awards, which many of the students have been waiting for to see who wins. Many of the students have been waiting for to see who wins. So the first award is the Rock Academic Student of the Year Award. Now we split this in two. One is for the 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, and the other is for the 10th and 11th graders. The seniors get their own award. So these students best represent the ideals of Rock academics. They're hardworking and respectful. They're dedicated to both dance and academics. And they must be engaged in supporting the Rock School community. So Katie Borger, our amazing assistant manager of Rock Academics, she's going to be presenting the award for the students from the lower grades.
So from the time this student started in Rock Academics, they have shown an incredible level of dedication to their academic work, both in and out of the classroom. This student is not only kind and supportive of their peers, but is incredibly considerate of others. Whether it's collaborating on group activities or initiating a conversation with someone new, this student exemplifies the qualities of a role model. For the past 2 years, I've thoroughly enjoyed the genuine positivity the student brings not only to the classroom, but to the school. It is with great pleasure I present the award for the 2022 Student of the Year to Miss Brianna Mancy.
For the next award, for the Student of the Year for the upper grades, this was a unanimous choice. Basically, we were like, okay, who deserves this? On three, 1, 2, 3. And we both said the same thing. Okay, it didn't happen quite like that, but it basically could have, because we all knew, we knew who it was. There didn't even need to be discussion. It was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be this person. This young lady embodies everything that is wonderful about a Student of the Year and everything wonderful about a Rock academic student. She works hard. She's very kind and caring all the time. As she brings positivity, it just drips from her. She's going to be leaving us and going elsewhere next year, but we'll undoubtedly be seeing her on Broadway before too long. I'm thrilled to announce the 2020 Rock Academic Student of the Year for the upper grades, Miss Emma Kaufman. Our final award is the Rock Academics Outstanding Senior Award. And this award is given to a graduating senior who best exemplifies the qualities of initiative, loyalty, and leadership. The recipient of this award is always the hardest to choose, bar none. Because every year there's students that I look at and say, well, that student could be, well, that student could be too, and that student could be. Every year it's the hardest. And every year I say, well, this is the hardest year. They're all hard. Seriously, I've never had a year where it was like, well, this is okay, well, maybe in one year there was. But otherwise, it was never just a no-brainer. There's always, everyone's so good. And we talked about this earlier. Whoever gets it, the rest of you are just as worthy. It's like you have a winner, and then you've also got all of your honorable mentions and runners-up, and just wonderful. But I had to give the award to one person. And if I gave it to 2, then I'd have to give it to 3, and then 4, and then next thing you know, it'd be to all 9, all of you. And then it doesn't really mean much, because it's just, y'all get a piece of it. Now, the student that we narrowed it down to, I've had the honor of working with for quite some time. I've gotten to watch her grow up. I've gotten to see her begin to realize her worth as a person. I've watched her take on increasing responsibility over the years. Not just for herself, but for academics and for the school at large. I've watched her become a leader. My grandfather, see, I talked about my grandmother, and I was a little bit my grandfather, he used to always tell me, always work to your greatest potential. It's been a thrill for me to watch this young lady do just that. I'm honored to announce the Rock Academics Outstanding Senior for 2022, Miss Lilith Marchetti. So at this point, I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm gonna pass the microphone off to Stephanie, who's gonna say a few words. And then after that, Mr. Stark's gonna come up and he's gonna say a few words.
You noticed he said a few words. I think that was a clue for me, so. I think first of all, I have to tell you that I am grateful for the way this school is. And I'm saying is, because I think it's going to continue and to grow and to be a wonderful school in many new ways, some hopefully old ways, but I'm very, very grateful for that. And I would not have been here probably if I had not been able to go to a school uh, performing arts high school, which allowed me to complete my education, academic, and to have enough good classes to continue and have a career. Later, when I had just stopped dancing, for an interim thing, because we knew that we were going to be absorbed into the school from the director of that at that time. But for an interim, I was taking the talking to the parents on the phone, arranging visits, doing small financial things. Those of you that know me at all know it had to be small if I was in financial things. But it gave me the opportunity to talk to the parents. And you know, they'd call up and say, well, you know, Miss So-and-so wasn't nice to my daughter, or my daughter's not being challenged. That's my favorite. My daughter's not being challenged. Gilsey Kirkland, at the height of her career, brilliant dancer, really a dance genius. This is, you know, it's not any rave that is not deserved. But she's dancing with Misha, you know, does it get better? And she goes into one of David Howard's lower level class because she wanted to work on her tendus. And so when I have a really short fuse, when somebody says my daughter's not being challenged. So that's the story, and I hope nobody here has heard that from me. But anyway, so I heard that, and that's why I heard these parents saying, you know, I want my daughter to have a wonderful academic education. She may want to go to college, even though right now she's looking to be a dancer. And so I kept going, wow, this hits home. Wow, this really hits home. My dear parents took the leap of faith, moved out of our third floor apartment in New Jersey. My dad was working at NBC, so he moved to Queens Village so I could go to Performing Arts High School. And that's what that saved me. I was no longer this frustrated, nobody knows what I'm about, nobody knows what's in my heart, nobody listens to classical music the way I do, nobody does artistically, I had other art forms, and there was something there, but I needed more. It wasn't enough. And so when I heard this, I knew what had to happen, but I was not empowered to do that. And I had to convince the powers that be and the people who were going to end up paying for it that it was worthy, that it was a right idea. And that was the board at that time. And Connie Bennett-Leal and eventually the rest of the board realized that importance. And so that's what came to be. And then we had some ups and downs with the right people to teach, the right people to, when the dorms started, the right people to do that. But I have to say that we have had many lovely people, many very smart people, but nobody's done what Rob has done for the school. And Kate is just fabulous. And so I'm very grateful to them. And now I just had to say that because it needs to be said. Two things come to me. Because love's what I always talk about. Because in the end, That's the most important thing. It really is. Um, I didn't bring my tissues up. I'm not going to do this. Oh, yeah? Okay, oh, good. I'm so glad Bo isn't here. I don't mean that seriously, but he hates it when I get emotional. So, it is love. Look around. Look at the world. And it's that old song, you need love. Love is all you need. That's what's missing. The two things that are trying, and they're not going to win, trying to get this world screwed up the way it seems to be right now on every front. Even people who had made friends, nations that have made, it's stirring up again. But what happens when things stir up is things come to the surface that need to be addressed. And so my prayer is that that's what's happening, and that it will level out, and that there will be a new appreciation for everybody's true identity. The two things that are really, I think, uppermost in what we need to address in each one's heart, in each one's life, is fear and hate. That's it, fear and hate. The only fear is hate, and hate is fear. And none of them express the qualities that the highest sense of humanity needs to express. And that is love. You absolutely have to discipline yourself. If you think ballet is hard, loving is very, very hard sometimes, because you'll see somebody that just, you don't feel deserves it, you don't feel generates it, you don't feel, you just can't understand how they can be so horrible. But love, and not a love that condones the evil. And Rob brought out the same thing. You're never condoning what's not right, and everybody has inside of them a moral compass. It's just sometimes they forget it, or they've been not taught. Their experiences have been so incredibly harsh that they've lost that feeling. So the way you have, not only academically, but if you continue as a dance artist, makeup artist, whatever is your calling, whatever you are meant to do here, there's no one without purpose, no one. And that's what you can do when you dance. You can just have so much love in your heart. There's no room for fear. There's no room for jealousy, ego, resentment, any of those nasty little serpent things that try to bite at the foot of love. And the more you go out on that stage, loving, embrace the audience with your love for humanity, your love for everything that's right and good, and your love for ballet. So, love is such a wonderful way to share ballet. And I'm talking ballet, but it can be, as we've seen, it can be theater. My first job was not a ballet job. It was a Broadway show that never made it to Broadway, but the experience was there. And so if you're called to be a doctor, if you're to try to save lives, I mean, yeah. If you're meant to write beautiful poetry so that people are touched, everything you do, if you do it with a sense of love and wanting to, we can all heal what's wrong with the world, but it has to be individual. And the more we can do it with the people that are closest to us, that you work with every day, sometimes people you're married to, that's sharing love. But when that curtain goes up and you go, oh, my pirouettes, or oh, I slipped, or oh, she did so well, oh my gosh, I'm not going to look good next to her, or all those away. You have one job. You go out, you do what you've been trained to do, that in your heart you love to do, and you just forget all about ego, giving that to the audience, and they will leave. I have heard so many audiences say, there's something, yeah, it was a great show. It was, I don't know, I just feel, they know when they're being loved. You can't stifle. It's the most important thing. So I give all my love to you.
Beautiful. Does anybody need to stand and shake out for a second? I know it's hard to sit in those chairs. The friends you make now are the friends you're going to have for your whole life. I was sitting next to Anne White, and she and I danced together at high school graduation, the pas de deux from Who Cares, Embraceable You, a couple of years ago. And now I'm delighted that she's our Rock Reach director. So these are your friends for life. It's a great honor for me to congratulate this, my first, Rock School graduating class of 2022. I'm going to read a section of a commencement address from Mikhail Baryshnikov from a few years ago. This is him talking. As young creative artists, and really as human beings, you have to be open to failure. Failure is part of learning. As a very old dancer, I have had many, many opportunities to fail. It happens. Projects collapse, knees blow out, money dries up, but you, as artists, lost my place. And as young people discovering what you care about, you must be generous to that spark inside of yourself that make you love to dance. I would not have this job without the education I received. The skills I learned in school come into play daily running an arts organization. I have learned through my failures, but those do not define me, but strengthen me with empathy and help me to make better future choices. You are a remarkable group of individuals. You have shown perseverance and commitment, continuing to train through a world pandemic. You have learned to take class on Zoom, held onto bureaus and chairs, dancing on tile and carpet. This has never happened since the founding of classical ballet in 1650. You kept this art form alive. You made it relevant into the 21st century. Everyone speaks to the discipline when extolling the benefits of classical ballet, but there is so much more. Health and wellness, moving to music, taking correction, an analytical process. We look at a wall of mirrors daily and determine what's wrong and how to fix it. This is not dissimilar to what a lawyer does examining a potential case, or a doctor diagnosing symptoms, or an author rereading and editing their work. You know how to learn. You know that anything worthwhile takes time, dedication, and perseverance. You have learned how to fail and how to try again. I am confident in the success of your future endeavors, and I wish you the very best.
And now the part that is the seniors' favorite part of the ceremony, where they get to say a few words of their own. So some of the seniors are going to come up and give speeches. We're going to start off with Lily. She's going to, just as she started us off with dancing, she's going to start us off with her speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lily Munson. I first walked into the rock school when I was 4 years old, with a white leotard and my hair too short to fit into a bun. My first ballet teacher was Miss Gina, and I don't think I can thank her enough for the love of ballet that she instilled in me right from the start. From then until now, the rock has been a second home to me. It's crazy to think that I've been here for pretty much my whole life, but it's even crazier to think that these past 14 years have led to me standing here in a cap and gown, giving a graduation speech. The rock has been such an important part of my life for as long as I can remember, and I will always be grateful for the time I've had here and the memories that I've made. In 8th grade, I made the decision to leave public school and join academics. At the time, I was unsure that this was the right decision. I didn't feel quite ready to leave my friends behind and give up on a normal teenage experience. However, it didn't take long for me to realize that I made the right choice. Academics has always been a safe space for me, where I felt comfortable learning and growing as a person. I am beyond grateful for Robert's endless support over the years. He truly cares about every student and wants to see us succeed. I feel so privileged to have him and Katie as role models. These two amazing people are constantly going out of their way to help students. They understand the challenges that we face as young dancers and are always willing to lend a hand when life gets stressful. I would also like to offer my gratitude to the amazing ballet teachers at the Rock School. Justin, Telmo, Natasha, Jody, Eva, and the teachers I had before I joined the professional division have all shaped me into the dancer I am today. All of the instructors have known me for years and have been patient with me, even on days when I felt especially discouraged. I feel honored to have received their wisdom and support. It is thanks to them that I found a passion for ballet. Bo and Stephanie Spasoff also played a huge role in sparking my passion for dance. They are two of the most supportive and loving people I have ever met. They've created such a positive environment here. It is an incredible honor to be a part of their ballet family. I wish them well in their retirement, and I am excited to see where the school goes next under Mr. Stark. I want to take these last few moments to thank my family. I am so lucky to have parents that supported my dream and were willing to take a chance by enrolling me in online school and putting me in the professional division. I am forever grateful for the sacrifices they made in order for me to pursue ballet. Seeing their faces in the audience always makes me feel so comforted and loved. My younger sister, Audrey, has also been a huge inspiration to me. Dancing alongside her over the years has been the most incredible experience. We are each other's biggest supporters, and I could not be more grateful for the bond that we share. Finally, I want to say thank you to the friends I've made during the Rock. They have truly kept me going during my hardest days, and the memories we created together will stick with me forever. They are some of the most talented people I know, and I cannot wait to see where their futures will take them. With that, I would like to say congratulations to the class of 2022. We did it!
Good afternoon. Robert told me on the second day of school this year that I would be giving the speech today, and I won't lie, I started drafting it that night. The first thing I did was go to my best friend for all of my assignments, Google. Just joking, of course, I would never do that. Google told me that this speech had to be a bit sappy at times, make the audience laugh and cry at the right moments, and then somehow provide some inspiration for my peers. It was overwhelming. Every paper I've ever written has been methodical and accomplished by a list. Google's list, however, was terrible, so I disregarded it. What I was missing in my searches was the phrase, Charlotte's graduation speech. We all get caught up in who we look up to or try to be when we should just focus on being ourselves. When I get stressed and upset sometimes, maybe a lot of times, my mom's advice is always simply, be Charlotte. And that brings me to what I should have started with. Today is a day of celebration, but it is also a day of thanks. Thank you to my family for reminding me to be myself and sometimes to be a calmer version of myself. Thank you to my teachers who never fail to give their tough love and inspiration. And thank you to the Rock School for being a rock during a global pandemic. Today is a day of celebration too, and in order to do that, we need to reflect on our past. In these 12 years, we've learned how to tie our sneakers as well as sew our point shoes. We've learned that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and that pliés are the powerhouses of ballet. We've learned how to take care of ourselves and how to take care of each other as well. Some of us learned how to do this while living hundreds of miles away from home too. We faced the good and the bad days, the highs and the lows, and we did it all together. When we look back on this year, we may not remember every tendu we've done, but we will remember who we did it alongside. And now I look to the future. Well, 1 year ago, even 1 week ago, if I'm being honest, I did this with fear. Now I look ahead with excitement. As we face this milestone of our lives, we need to remember that these past 12 years have been dedicated to learning about who we are and what we value. The next phase may seem scary, but we don't need to know exactly who we're going to be in 10 years or even in 10 weeks. All we need is a vague idea of who we are today: believers, fighters, dancers. Thank you.
This day, our high school graduation, will be filed away in our memories as one of the biggest, most exciting milestones in our lives. Though the actual day doesn't consist of much more than walking up in fancy outfits to be handed a piece of paper, making speeches in front of our loved ones, and smiling for endless pictures, it is important because it marks the end of one era in our lives and the start of another. It's the end of our time as kids, of having everything planned out for us, of 12 long years of making mistakes and then putting in the hard work of fixing them. And it marks the beginning of our time as adults, of starting to make decisions for ourselves, of still making mistakes, but this time being on our own to fix them. I'm so excited to move on to the next chapter of my life and to see what incredible things my fellow grads accomplish in the coming years. At the same time, though, a part of me has been dreading this day, and there's a quote from A.A. Milne that pretty perfectly explains why, that says, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." An amazing experience during my 2 years here at the Rock, but it makes leaving here that much more difficult. It's hard for me to say goodbye to the Rock School itself, though I won't really miss the 17 flights of stairs we climbed up every day. They led me to my dance classes and to our incredible teachers that put so much of their time, energy, and dedication into making us into the best dancers we each can be. And the sometimes dizzying salmon pink color of the walls wouldn't have been my first choice in choosing a color to be constantly surrounded by, but it provided the backdrop for the countless hours of growth and improvement that I experienced in my technique and artistry over the past 2 years. It's hard for me to say goodbye to Robert and Katie, who were always more than willing to advise me, help me complete my work, assist in my transition between schools, and guide me in submitting my college applications when I got too overwhelmed and couldn't do it on my own. It's hard for me to say goodbye to Chef Tara, who treated us like her own kids, going above and beyond the requirements in her job description to surprise us with cakes on our birthdays or with treats for a pick-me-up during the harder weeks. It's hard for me to say goodbye to Yenny, who dedicated so much of herself to ensuring that the Rock dorms were a safe and loving environment for those of us who had to leave our families hundreds of miles away in order to be here. The Rock dorms did become a home for me, with the movie nights we had in room 202, the birthday parties we held in the lounge, and the friends that were only a few steps and a knock on the door away. But the hardest goodbye is the one that I will have to make to my roommates, Ava, Emmy, and the Charlottes, who truly only away from home. Squishing 5 teenagers into one studio apartment-sized room would seem to most people like a recipe for disaster, but it actually made us into one of the closest, most supporting, and most loving friend groups. I will forever be grateful for the trips to Rittenhouse, late-night dance parties, and many moments when we laughed so hard we cried. I think that is what makes the Rock so special. It creates bonds between dancers that last forever, even if we all end up going separate ways, and I'm so lucky to have been a part of that experience. So congratulations to the class of 2022, and I wish you all the very best in whatever path life leads you.
Hello, everyone. Though my appreciation and love for the Rock Academics program is plentiful, my words today will mostly be an homage to my roommates. Looking back on my growth this year, my mind takes me to the move-in days I've had at the Rock. My junior year of high school, when I was so overtly confident in who I was, this kid with long hair and dramatic earrings and Converse decorated with cheetah print, who was so nervous to meet the new people who would begin to define their world. Who I was when I began my years here at the Rock is unequivocally disparate from who I am today. Perhaps as a result of the teachers here, the assignments I've turned in much overdue, or the pieces I performed, Unstoppable Joy, for instance. Or perhaps my growth can be attributed to the people I've loved, the hours I've put in studying the ceiling with my friends in the darkness, where we pretend we're smarter than we are and raise philosophical questions that will be there, unanswered until we leave. Perhaps the ways I've changed and begun to learn about myself is due to the way my friends let me draw them and turn their lovely faces into crude monsters when I mess up a line. I adored meeting new people through my time here, swapping our favorite songs and stories from when we were young, and learning to appreciate even country music and the glory of a good French ballad. Even when my time here was restricted from last year's COVID precautions, the time spent indoors let me cherish the dorms and the people who were in them for what they were, dedicated dancers and even more dedicated friends. I've changed the ways I've expressed myself through my high school career, and I'm not sure I've discovered who I am just yet. I hope that I can be constantly evolving with ever-changing interests and style, questionable eyeliner choices, and future prospects. Next year, I will be attending Ballet Met's trainee program, a decision I am eager to fulfill with aspirations in ballet that I can't wait to realize. Of course, I can't end my time up here without mentioning the invaluable support of my parents, who have aided me in my time here, both in the studio and out, and who have accepted me when I'm sure I didn't make it easy to do so. My sister, too, who I would otherwise have no one to share my love for mid-2000s emo bands with, even if text messages doesn't quite compare to staying up late when we were younger. So thank you to everyone who has helped make me so grateful for my time here at the Rock School for Dance Education.
I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, all right? There's only one thing important to me, as important to me as ballet, and that is my family. Throughout my life, I've shared 1,000 moments of joy and of happiness and of laughter with my family. This is falling off, sorry. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. Thus, coming here was hard, the greatest opportunity of my life, nonetheless, but hard. And only when I came here did I really realize just how much of a support system my family was. But lo and behold, I had developed and found a new family from kids across the world, from different cultures who speak different languages, all brought together through ballet and through art. And I think that's beautiful. And with these new friends, with this new family, I've shared another 1,000 moments of joy and happiness and laughter. So with that said, I encourage you to go out with those who you love. Share those moments, because that's what makes life worth living. Thank you.
In his first inaugural address, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "Happiness lies in the joy of achievement and the thrill of creative effort." I first read this quote in my US history class. Roosevelt was, of course, addressing the economic troubles of the 1930s, but I thought of how applicable this was to my time here at Rock. In my experience, achievement is so much bigger than myself. Right before the COVID lockdown, we performed the Carnival of the Animals alongside the accompaniment of the Philadelphia Orchestra. I remember seeing so many children of all ages in the audience who sat in awe of the gorgeous theater, music, costumes, and dancing. Those same dazzled faces in the audience came to greet and take photos with us after the show. I consider that an achievement, making the audience feel something, whether it's awe, love, happiness, or thrill. I've had many opportunities to achieve during my time here, and those achievements have prepared me to take on university and a future professional career at 17. My successes are not only limited to dance, they also extend to Rock academics. Katie and Robert have always celebrated my achievements in both academics and in dance. Their support and care for me has been endless through school and through performances. The wonderful ballet instructors here get to see your growth in technique and artistry every day, but Katie and Robert get to see our growth from students into well-rounded people. I remember I was incredibly stressed with school and dance, and I will be the first to admit that I didn't have good technique when I first started. Well, that year, I felt as if I hadn't improved enough and that I would never be good enough to make it to where I wanted to be. So he asked me, well, why don't you just walk away? And I gave the most stubborn response I could give, I don't want to. I want this more than anything else. From then on, I poured every ounce of my soul into what I do here at Rock. Not only in dance, but in the costume shop and in academics, where I've hopefully done a good job. So I've achieved. But what about the thrill of creative effort? Well, I believe it takes some time to achieve. Each of us here today have experienced the fear of rejection and ridicule, but for us ballet students, that fear is exponentially worse. When I was younger, I was very anxious and fearful of making mistakes and drawing attention to myself. So I would tuck myself away into the corner of the studio and hope that my mistakes would go unnoticed, which inevitably they did not. Over time, I realized that by hiding away and by hiding from my fears, I was keeping success from myself. And so, in the pursuit of my goals, I pushed myself to the front of the room. I think that that was one of the best choices I made during my time here. The opportunities that I have received from that simple choice allowed me to explore my artistic ability and to become genuinely excited about dancing. There was a time this year and last where, to keep myself motivated, I told myself to solely dance for myself. I found that creative effort within myself, but the thrill was ultimately missing. That was until Miss Stephanie pulled me aside one day. I'd had what was a surprisingly emotional breakdown during a Thursday morning class with Miss Natasha. After I left the studio to collect myself, Miss Stephanie told me that my love for dance is to be shared with the world, especially now with the current state of events. I won't forget that, and I hope my fellow dancers either. Since then, in every performance I've been in, I've tried to share as much of the love and joy I experienced with the audience. And today, I hope I've shared the happiness that I've experienced at Rock. I'd like to finish off with two quotes that I've held very dear to my heart this year. From Robert Hodges, "You matter," which will forever mean the world to me. And from Telma Morera, "You'll be loved wherever you go," which I will hold in my heart forever as I begin my undergraduate degree at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. I cannot express my immense gratitude enough to Jody Anderson, Katie Borger, Mr. Stark, Miss Eva Zabo, Justin Allen, Telma Morera, Miss Natasha Zager, Miss Stephanie and Mr. Bo Spasoff, and Robert Hodges for making me feel welcome and giving me the opportunity to grow. Thank you, and congratulations to the Rock Academics Class of 2022.
They even got me emotional today. So, this is the part you've all been for, where we hand out the diplomas. So seniors, when your name is called, come on up, and you're going to receive your diploma from our new president and director, Mr. Peter Stark. Peter Nicholas Garvey. Charlotte Christina Grace. Audrey Houston. Olivia Renee Link. Emmy Makimura. Lilith Electra Marchetti. Lillian Claire Munson. Ava Rain Hincha Ownby. And Charlotte Athelia Tanner Marash, who unfortunately is not here. Every one of you has worked so long and so hard for this. You all deserve every bit of success and happiness life has in store for you. You did it. Your family, your friends, those here and those that aren't, we're all so proud of you. It is with great pleasure thank you all for coming, for joining us and celebrating with us. Please join us down on the second floor in the cafe where we're going to have a reception for the graduates. Thank you.